Good afternoon to everyone. I am Federico Tomassetti. I'm a PhD student at Politecnico di Torino, and I would like to present some result of a survey that we did with Italian companies to understand which is the real picture, because today here we have some of the top-notch developers in the Eclipse world. We have attendees that want to invest in their knowledge, and we have like the best part of the world, of the IT world. But there is the rest that is outside, and we would like to understand how they conceive modeling in practice, because there is not just the best practices, there are the worst practices, there are half-baked solutions. We want to get the real picture. And this survey was undertaken by Politecnico di Torino and from University of Genoa. The small agenda is just to say a couple of words about the importance of modeling in the Eclipse ecosystem. Then we'll present the goals of the survey, some data, and eventually I will draw the conclusions. So I think that the perception of Eclipse during the years evolved. At the beginning, I think most of users thought of Eclipse just as a cool Java editor, while during the years it evolves in something more complex. I think that now a large portion of the users are able to understand that it's a whole platform in which we can integrate different tools. Among them, the one related to modeling are very important. This is data from the Eclipse community survey in 2011, and we can see that already at that time, 1 out of 5 users of Eclipse are using Eclipse modeling, and 1 out of 10 is considering it. And still there are more users of Eclipse that don't use Eclipse modeling, but they use other tools for the modeling needs. So in the end, more than half of the Eclipse users are interested or already using some form of modeling. So modeling is a very relevant aspect for Eclipse users. Then I stole this piece of text from the website of Lars Vogel, because I'm lazy. The basic idea is just to tell in a few words that modeling is important for users, but as we have seen with the next generation of Eclipse, modeling is also very important for the platform itself. Now, we will see that the goals of our survey is, as I said, to get the big pictures of the use of modeling. But the problem is that it's already difficult to define what a model is and what is not. It's like it's difficult to find a definition that everyone agrees. And of course, if it's difficult to define what is a model and what is not, it's also more difficult to define what is modeling and what is not, what is model-driven development, what is not. In our opinion, we consider that form of modeling, both drawing some UML diagrams just for documentation purpose, or use some DSL, graphical or textual. And for model-driven development, we consider the use of automatic transformation, of code generation, or model interpretation. And what I just want to underline is that there are so many different ways of using modeling that we have to conceive our survey to be as general as possible. So questions were not very precise on specific techniques, because we were interested to capture all possible use of modeling. We have 155 companies who answered to our questionnaire, and they range from single developers, so freelancer, to very large companies. So we had the data about all the possible dimensions. Now let's go to see some data. The first question about modeling that we posed was, are you using modeling in your project? Never, sometimes, or always? As you see, it's a very general question. And the light part on top of the columns corresponds to the people responding never. So we can see that micro companies use very frequently modeling, sometimes or always, while companies with a medium size seems to use modeling less, and yet large companies seems to use modeling more. So in the end, we have micro companies and large companies, which are the companies using modeling more. And now we have some problems to understand why. We have some hypotheses. Probably micro companies are more willing to experiment, are more agile, so they are. It's more common for them to play with new exciting technologies. While on the other hand, large companies have more bureaucratic processes, and they have to draw some UML for documentation. We plan to investigate more. Maybe you can come up with some answer and help us to understand this phenomenon. Then, going the language use, a lot of people is using UML. Surprisingly, just a few are using profiles. But 1 out of 5 users of modeling are already using domain-specific languages, and textual languages seems more relevant than graphical, so they are twice as common as graphical languages. Now, let's see just some data about the most common technique, model-driven technique, which is code generation. Almost half of the users of modeling generate some code from their models. The problem is that the most of them generate just a very low percentage of code, so less than 20%. So probably they are just generating some stubs from UML diagrams or something like that, while there are just a few users that are able to generate all the code or almost all the code of their application. In between, we have people probably relying on protected region or some not optimal solution. Then we ask which layers they generate. And we have SQL scripts, which are the most generated aspect. Then we have presentation. Personally, I was expecting not so many people to generate the code for presentation. I thought that they wanted to be more in control of that aspect, which is the aspect that the customer put a lot of attention into. Also, architectural code is generated a lot. People could answer specifying that they could specify more than an answer, and half of the sample reply to generate 1 or 2 parts, while 1/3 reply that they are generating all the different layers of their application. Apparently, people, advanced users use all the different techniques that we consider as the symptom of model-driven development. So people using model execution, or model interpretation, normally generate a lot more code. And people using transformation also generate a lot more code. This surprised me. I thought that model interpretation and code generation were exclusive techniques, so the people would use one or the other. Apparently, a lot of people are using them together. And we can see that from this slide. There are the number of users for the different combination of the techniques. So 30 companies are just using code generation without model interpretation and without a model-to-model transformation. of course, no one is using model-to-model transformation per se. They are using just together with code generation or model interpretation. A result that I wasn't expecting is that, as I said before, model interpretation is almost always used together with code generation. And 7 people in this case use all the techniques together. Then we ask about, we ask to the users if they are producing some kind of tools by themselves. And 70, so the 60% of the users of modeling tell us that they are doing that. And there are 10 of them are using tools from the Eclipse modeling. In this case, GMF seems more used than Xtext, but those numbers are very low. They just tell us that Eclipse modeling seems to be the first choice when people have to create their own tools. We were curious also about who is writing the models. So apparently we can forget the idea to having business experts, it was a difficult one, to develop their models alone, because we couldn't find one single case in which experts are doing that. Models seems to be written directly from developers or from some higher figure like project manager or architects. And they can do that alone or together, but in any case, when experts are involved, there are also project manager and architects involved. So experts and developers are not allowed probably to talk because they never develop models together. So probably it's true that experts do not write models, probably they are used to validate them, to check them, and or to look at them, but with some more technical people near to them. Those were some very high-level results, and I want to just to summarize. The idea is that modeling in Italy seems to be very, very relevant, more relevant than we were expecting, because 2 out of 3 companies are using some form of modeling. The problem is the form of modeling they're using, because most of them are using just for documentation. When they generate code, they generate a very low percentage of code, so probably they generate just some stubs. Many of them replies to us that they are not even using some form of versioning for models. So probably just creating some throwaway models for documentation, and that's it. And we ask also about problems, and the main source of dissatisfaction from users is about tools. So they complain because tools seems to be in some cases expensive, in some cases the tools they are looking for are not available, and another important issue is they have fear of lock-in. So they fear if they adopt some tools as part of their development tools, they are not able to switch to something else in the future. And that's a major problem, preventing them to adopt modeling at all. So we then discuss about some of the problems with 3 experts. One was the CEO of an Italian company producing a proprietary tools based on code generation. Another one, the leader of an open source tool based on model interpretation, and finally a software architect which is building a very big model-driven solution in-house for one specific company. Discussing with them, they suggest us that possible way to improve the maturity of modeling in Italy is to resort more on standardized languages. And that is for 2 reasons, because with standardized languages, developers are more encouraged to learn them, because interviewing many developers, they told us that they are they are resistant to learn specific languages because those skills cannot be reused in another place, while this fear disappears when UML or BPMN are used, for example. And the other issues, as I said before, is the fear of lock-in. So if I have some tool based on some standard language, I have the confidence to adopt that approach because I can switch to another tool if the tool I'm using is not supported anymore, is not anymore the best possible choice. There is also the need for more integrated tool sets because we seem to have a lot of pieces, but sometimes we have some difficulties to put them together in an integrated development processes, and that's a problem. And finally, there is one aspect that is specific to the Italian reality because probably in many cases, because of the abuse of body rental, subcontracting, quality is not the main issue, and as consequence, companies are not always encouraged to invest in new technologies like model-driven development. So this is the end. I make it short so we can go to take the coffee. And if there are any questions.